You're watching Inside Out here in the West Midlands, where we're enjoying the atmosphere of Birmingham's Frankfurt Christmas market. But the welcome here hasn't always been so warm. To mark the 50th anniversary of Jamaica's independence, Des Coleman has been on a voyage of discovery.
$2.99. That's more my price tag, $2.99.
Yeah, you should buy it now.
I'll think about it. Now, Birmingham in 2012 is a city with more than 1 million people, a third of whom are non-white. It's a city that celebrates its culture. I've come to the multicultural Soho Road in Handsworth to start a journey that will take me back to my family's home in Jamaica. I want to find out what it was like when the first wave of Jamaicans landed in the motherland.
I can't remember any welcome at all, to be quite honest. Everything was so strange. For a start, it was daytime and it still looked like night.
And I want to discover what drove them to leave the sun-kissed isle of their birth for a new life in the West Midlands.
A lot of the people who left were black, of an urban working class, upper working class background, and they were actually the target or the victims of anti-black discrimination.
Well, I'm going home.
June 1948, and the Empire Windrush arrives at the Tilbury docks in Essex. On board, 493 passengers from Jamaica, armed with suitcases and dreams. Over the next 20 years, families like mine made a similar journey, lured to the West Midlands by the promise of work and prosperity. Yes, there were jobs, but there was also resentment. Many of the new arrivals had to endure prejudice, intolerance and extreme racism. There was a lot of tension.
Difficult to get work, and I had some difficulty in getting accommodation also, which I attribute to colour prejudice probably.
I've seen a newspaper clipping from 1948 that says Jamaicans landing in Birmingham after only 3 hours had decided that it was the most inhospitable city they'd ever been in. I want to understand what it must have been like to face such hostility. So I'm meeting the wonderfully named Techno Elders here in Handsworth. Sonia, Mavis and Myrtle. They've used their newfound web skills to record their Jamaican memories for the Connecting Histories website. Over some traditional Caribbean cuisine, it soon becomes clear that life here in the 50s and 60s was certainly very different to now.
Neighbours didn't speak to you, and we're used to neighbours speaking to us. And children in school were isolating themselves from us and looking at us as if we were funny or strange. And because we speak with a Caribbean accent as well, that didn't help. People would be saying pardon to you even before you start speaking, because they tell themselves they're not going to understand you. So you haven't even said a word yet and they're telling you pardon.
I think coming over from Jamaica, I've never worked before. And the fact that I was in uniform now and I was a nurse, because they call you a nurse from the first, to me that was something exciting. So in all the excitement, I think a lot of things must have gone over me. I didn't notice that people were strange or anything like that.
It's clear that for Sonia, Mavis and Myrtle, Birmingham is home. They're Brummies. But just like me, they have family members back in Jamaica, people who weren't swayed by the lure of the UK. So what made them stay when so many others booked a ticket to ride 5,000 miles? Passport in hand, I'm off to find some answers. I arrived days after Hurricane Sandy brought devastation to my mum's homeland. My first port of call is the small village of Bamboo, the place where my mum was born and raised. It's been a 10-hour flight and a very long drive, but finally I've arrived in the village of Bamboo, and this is the house where my mum grew up. It's a long way from a James Bond beach and bikini-clad girls. This is what I call the real Jamaica. And guess what? It's raining. There to meet me is her cousin Val, who decided to stay and make his living from farming.
This is you when you was a baby with your mum, right?
Yeah, and this is when my mum went to England.
Yeah.
So when people were leaving to go to England, was there any jealousy?
Well, at least people, some husband might feel more or less that their wife not going to come back to them. Wife feel that their husband not coming back to them. So there was a jealousy in between.
So did it split marriages up?
Of course, it split marriage up because people go to the UK and them find a better life. So some don't remember them immediate family. Them start a new relationship and carry on with their life, while some in Jamaica couldn't wait, so they have to move on.
Are people still leaving?
People still leaving to find searching for a better life right now. Certain amount of educated people leave and never come back.
It was a tough time.
It was a tough time. Yeah.
Until 1962, Jamaica was under British rule, and prejudice wasn't just confined to UK shores. What was going on in Jamaica in the 60s that made people want to leave?
Locally, there were some social problems. A lot of the people who left were black, of an urban working class, upper working class background, and they were actually the target or the victims of anti-black discrimination. And a lot of opportunities were not available to them. And that coincided with a pull factor. You have to understand that Jamaica in this period was nearly 300 years under British rule. These people had been socialized to believe themselves to be subjects of the British Empire and belonging to it very much so. So they were like inundated with the idea of the veneration of British monarchy, British heroes and so forth. They read books in their textbooks, Big Ben, Buckingham Palace. All these things were very life to them and things that they believe were theirs. And so it seemed to me that they were going home in many ways, almost like a mother country.
So the dream was to go to England, make a life for yourself, and then come back to Jamaica. Did many people aspire to that?
A significant number did.
Towards the end of my journey, I find a former postman from the Midlands who moved back to Jamaica after 40 years for a warmer retirement. When you came back to Jamaica, did the Jamaicans treat you differently?
People rip you off coming from abroad quicker than local people.
So it's almost like a reverse prejudice.
In a way, yes. It could be. It could look as a prejudice in reverse.
So you moved over to England to make better prospects for yourself. You did that and you've come back to Jamaica. Would you say that you've lived the dream that most Jamaicans?
I would say so, yes. I went there, I made a living, and I came back here, and I'm living comfortably.
I wonder if Sonia, Mavis and Myrtle were ever tempted by a return to sunnier climes.
My sister went back home and settled in nicely, but I think you have to want to. If you're forced to go, you won't do well. You've got to want to go. I don't particularly want to go back because I've got my family and friends here. And you go back and you're a stranger.
So how do you class yourself?
British.
You?
Yeah, British.
Yeah.
British. But I've not forgotten my Jamaican background.
So when you go back to Jamaica, how do you think they'd class you?
Foreigners.
Right, there you go. You girls get stuck into that. Listening to Sonia, Mavis and Myrtle, you really get a sense that Birmingham has come an awfully long way since that inhospitable city headline back in 1948.